And good afternoon. Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590. Thank you for making us part of your day. My next guest is the Missouri Department of Transportation engineer for the Southeast region, Mr. Donnie Brown. Donnie, welcome to the booth.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Donnie, is it okay if I call you Donnie?
Absolutely.
Donnie, tell the listeners a little bit about Donnie Brown, the region engineer for the Southeast District of Missouri Department of Transportation.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. Of course, I'm brand new to MoDOT, as you know, 2 months in, kind of drinking from a fire hose right now, trying to learn everything that goes on. But spent the last 30 years county engineer for New Madrid County. Along with that, did 12 years of mayor of my hometown, city of New Madrid. And then the last 3 years, state representative for District 149 over Mississippi, New Madrid, and half of Pemiscot counties. So.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, being joined by Donnie Brown, the engineer for the Southeast region of Missouri Department of Transportation. Donnie, and one thing that I'd like the listeners to know is while you were there for 3 years, you also played a major role because you were on a committee that I think, and I could be wrong, I think they're all important, but as my understanding, you were on appropriations. Is that correct?
I was. Yeah, I really, on the way up, going up there, talked to a lot of folks like Mr. Don Rome, people that had been there, and they said, you know, if you really want to learn state government, get on the appropriations committee, get on that budget committee, because you'll see every office, you'll see every dollar that passes through state government, and they were exactly right. I spent 3 years on there, and you get to know all the people, you get to see the dollars, where they go, if you're happy about that or if you're not. But it is a great way to learn state government and really get involved. It's a lot of hours, though. I'll tell you, it's a lot of commitment, but it is the best way to get it done.
And, you know, the one thing that the listeners have to be aware of is, you know, when was the last time from Southeast Missouri we really had anybody who was on appropriations?
I tell you, when I got there, there was nobody. The closest one was, I'm going to say, just south of St. Louis, and as you went west at Mountain Grove, we had nobody down in the Southeast region. So that we made a big push. Myself and Representative John Voss from Cape both got on there, worked hard, worked our way up into sort of leadership roles in that. You know, I was the sub-approps chair for transportation, and then John was the general services sub-approp. So we were really trying to get our way on up in there. Hopefully, you know, my hope would be for Southeast Missouri that John Voss maybe could be our budget chair in the next year or two. So.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the engineer for the Southeast region of Missouri Department of Transportation, talking a little bit about his days as in the House of Representatives, representing the 149th District on the Appropriations Committee. And, you know, Donnie, one thing that I think that was very important is as you're going through that and you see where the money goes, as we indicated, most of the time you look at the people in charge of the money, it seems like they're always from Springfield or somewhere in that area. It seems to me. So the concerted effort to get it back here to Southeast Missouri was very important for you and Mr. Voss, correct?
Very important. Yes, they've and really good friends over in Southwest Missouri, and they worked for it. They've worked hard to put themselves in those positions, and, you know, we felt it was time for us to do that and start bringing some of that money back home. And, you know, with the help of Senator Bean and his sitting on appropriations in the Senate side, we had some really good success for the last 3 years, doing some really good things for the boot heel. And,
you know, I really appreciate you coming in and doing this show today. And we're going to get to your role with the Highway Department. But I think there's so many interesting things that you did while you're in Jefferson City. And a lot of people are like, why are you talking about that? Because I think it's really, really interesting. You had a very neat podcast. And I know you're probably going to be like, why are you asking me about this, Darren? But I really enjoyed it. And the three guys and then the little guy.
Yeah. 6'4" and more.
Kind of explain to listeners a little bit about that.
I tell you, that's one part of Jeff City people don't. You sit at home and you watch Fox News, you watch CNN, and you think, man, politics, people are all evil that are there. And then you get there and you're like, you know, there's just a lot of folks just like me up there, rural folks that are just trying to do good for their area. And those two guys have become two of my best friends. Jeff Farnan is from District 1, as far away from here as you can get. He's in the far northwest. Dave Hinman is O'Fallon boy. He's right there around St. Louis. And we've just got to be really great friends. And one day we were talking, and Jeff said, we ought to do a podcast, and we won't make it about politics. We'll just make it about getting to know people, getting to know more about the folks that are up here. And, man, we just had a great time with it. Of course, Jeff's a jokester. He's a cut-up. Me and Dave always had to edit his jokes beforehand, what could go on air and what couldn't. But we were able to get several reps on there. The governor came one time, sitting on there with us. Scott Fawn from over in the Poplar Bluff area came and was a funny guest on there. So we just had a great time with that. 6'4" and more.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the engineer for the Southeast region of the Missouri Department of Transportation, talking a lot about his days representing the 149th District. And forgive me, but it's my understanding it's New Madrid and Mississippi County. Is that correct?
It is. And then I have had half of Pemiscot, had Caruthersville and Hayti were included in the 149th. And
you indicated that you called it 6'4" and more. And for those who don't know you, you're how tall, Donnie?
I'm 6'9". Jeff was about 6'6", and Dave was about 5'9".
Absolutely. And it was so comical because at one point it almost looked like you guys were kind of holding, he would kind of be jumping up wanting to be in the picture. And again, it just goes to show you that there's a lot of like-minded people in Jefferson City if you could just get everybody rowing the boat in the same direction, correct?
There really are. And, we are blessed down here in the Southeast region. We have some great representatives up there and two wonderful senators, Senator Bean, Senator Jamie Berger. I mean, we've got some common sense folks up there that are fighting to try to get some power back down in the Southeast.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown. And Donnie, one thing that you indicated you graduated from New Madrid County Central High School, and then you went to what I called at the time University of Missouri Rolla. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And tell listeners a little about your experience at the University of Missouri Rolla.
I tell you, wonderful school. Down here in rural Southeast Missouri, I didn't even know what an engineer was, to be quite honest with you. Went through school, had a counselor, Mr. Bob Pulliam, said, "Hey, Donnie, you're really good at math and science. You ought to be an engineer." I had no idea what that even was. So they offered me a basketball scholarship, and I said, well, I'll go and I'll try to be an engineer. But get there, and it was a lot of math and science. Went through 4 years, played ball, had a great career there at basketball, but even more important, got a wonderful education that has served me very well.
And it's my understanding now they've actually changed the name to is it Missouri Science and Technology? Is that what they call it now?
It is, Missouri S&T.
Yes, sir. And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the engineer for the Southeast region of the Missouri Department of Transportation, the former state representative for the 149th District. Also, Donnie, you're a lot like Cameron Parker. I've had Cameron Parker on my show as well. And I'm always envious of anyone who is athletic because, you're 6'9", I'm probably about 5'9", maybe 5'9". But you had a great career at Rolla, is that correct?
I did. I never was the fastest, never could jump the highest, but always kind of prided myself on putting the work in, and had a really good career, got to play all 4 years, and then 2 Octobers ago, they actually elected me into the Missouri S&T Hall of Fame.
Well, absolutely. Congratulations.
Thank you. I was very honored with that.
And, for those of you who don't know Donnie, and I've known Donnie for a while, hardest working individual I've ever seen. Again, he talks about appropriations and how much work it is from daylight to dusk, plus some on the working, because, it's just an unbelievable amount of paperwork that you have to go through to check out and make sure the budget's in the state of Missouri up to par, correct?
It really is. Every year you get these budget books, and I'm not kidding you, the stack of budget books is taller than I am that you get from all these departments, and it is. There's several times we were in there till 2:30 in the morning listening to testimony, having discussions. It is. It's a lot of work, and people don't realize how massive our state government is and how much money's involved.
And, we're talking a lot about your new role as the Southeast Region Engineer. You had an opportunity while you're at the state rep to vote for probably one of the most important Department of Transportation decisions in a long time. That has to do with I-70. Is that correct?
That's right.
Kind of explain to the listeners a little bit about that, because, you know, a lot of people don't realize if you've ever been on I-70, oh my goodness, that's all you can say about it, right?
That's right.
So
That's
kind of
right.
explain what's going on with that.
Well, you know, I got in there at a time where we got all of that COVID money, ARPA money, all this money came down from the federal government. And, you know, all of us in Jeff City were like, you know, we need to spend this money on one-time projects that are going to carry Missouri on into the future, infrastructure type projects. You know, some states did expansion of welfare type programs, ongoing programs. And, you know, this money's basically it's dried up now. It's going away. So we were able to put, I think, almost $4 billion into transportation, 2.8 into the I-70, which is going to make it a 6-lane highway all the way from St. Louis to Kansas City, kind of fix a generational long problem that we've had there. And it's going to serve us well into the future. You know, another $600 or $700 million is going down to I-44, which is another major corridor, probably carries more freight than I-70. Very important to the state. And then we put $320 million into rural routes, which we've seen a lot of that around here as a result. And, you know, it's taken our MoDOT, we do a lot of road conditions. We have a van that goes around, checks the roads every year. Our rural routes down in the southeast, we were about 58% good when this started. Today, we're a little over 90% good. So it's really been a great investment that we've taken that money and kind of caught us up from years of where we've got behind. And so now we got to keep that momentum going and keep this thing on the right track.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Loop with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the engineer for the Southeast region of the Missouri Department of Transportation, talking a lot about his days in the Missouri legislature, the great things that he's done and brought back to the area. And also, you know, you can say what you want about votes and things of that nature, but like you say, Donnie, when you can vote for things that are going to be generational, that are going to matter for not only my kids, but my grandkids and my kids and my grandkids, that's the kind of votes that you want up there at Jeff City, correct?
That's right. That's right. When you can look at things, and we get all kinds of statistics, information, but when you can look at when I spend $1 of state money and it's going to bring back $7 or $8, that's a no-brainer vote for me. I love those kind of votes. There's too many times we spend $1 and never see a nickel of it come back. So, you know, being an engineer, being an infrastructure guy, those were the ones I loved.
Absolutely. And, you know, talking about some roads, it seems like a lot of people, when I think of roads in this area, it sounds like everybody wants to talk about the letter roads. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Kind of explain to us what the letter roads are.
They are basically your farm to market roads is what I've always called them. You know, it's what allows a farmer to get all of his inputs to the field, get the crop put in, and then in the fall, it lets him get from the field most of the time to the river to get it on a barge and get it shipped out of here. So that's your low volume roads, we call them. They're usually 400 cars a day or less, mostly just during the harvest and the planting time. But, you know, we don't have near as many homes on them as we used to down the Boot Hill. A lot of folks lived out there now, not quite as much. So, but very important that they are good roads, very important that we have good bridges on them because, you know, you've seen this farm equipment nowadays, very heavy loads, very big equipment. So critical for our agriculture down there in the Boot Hill.
And, you know, I can remember back in the day, I was growing up in Gibson, Missouri, and I can remember when we still had wooden bridges. And, you know, these tractors. Now, could you imagine a tractor or a combine nowadays going across and making it across those wooden bridges? You remember what I'm talking about, don't you?
I do. When I first came back to New Madrid County as an engineer, we had 150 wooden bridges and 16-foot wide. Like I say, combine wouldn't even hardly fit on them anymore. But we finally got rid of all those in the county, and thankfully, because that's kind of stuff that keeps you up at night thinking about 18-wheelers going across a 10-ton wood bridge.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Loop with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the engineer for the Southeast region, Missouri Department of Transportation. And Donnie, you talked a lot about your time at New Madrid as the New Madrid County engineer. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Kind of explain to the listeners what you did while you're the New Madrid County engineer.
Well, they brought me in because of those wooden bridges, and they wanted an engineer on staff. Really, because we had to start our own program. We had to build our bridges. We couldn't afford to contract them all out. That's way too many, way too much money. So the gentleman that was there before me, Mr. Roy Hinton, kind of started setting up a program. He wasn't an engineer. He wanted an engineer on staff that could be able to stamp plans and do those kind of things. So he brought me in just a year or so before he retired. So I got on board, and we went to work building bridges. We would build 4 a year with our people, and then we could use the money that we spent there as kind of soft match money, MoDOT called it, that counted towards our 20% of a federal bridge. So we were getting about 5 bridges a year. And like I said, we had 150 to get rid of. So took us a few years, but I think today there's one wooden bridge left in New Madrid County on a dead end road that they will probably just remove when the time comes.
And forgive me for not knowing this a little bit better, but is it my understanding that you actually took your own crews and went out and dug the footings and the pilings and put all this in? How did you go about training those guys? Was it just like a work in progress? That's fascinating to me that you guys actually did that.
I tell you, we got, of course, down here in the Boot Heel, we got hard-working folks. And most of the time I would get guys that would come off the farm. They'd be like, I'm getting to be like 40, 45. I need something with some retirement, some insurance. But, man, they had the work ethic. So you could put them, say, hey, get out here and dig this hole, and they dig till you told them to stop. So we had really good people, and they could run farm equipment. They just knew how to run equipment. So it was a pretty easy transition to put them on. We had one gentleman that was great on a crane. We had a couple of guys that could really do excavators well. So they just got it. They had CDLs. They could drive concrete trucks. We set up our own concrete plant. We would tie steel for these channel beams in the winter, and then spring we would pour them, and then we would go out and put the bridges together during the summer. So,
and it's almost again we're welcome to the booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the engineer for the Southeast region, talking about his days at the New Madrid County engineer. It almost sounds like you had it to a science of exactly when you needed to do what part, who was going to do what part, and kind of just went from there. And you went from 150 wooden bridges, is that my understanding?
Yes.
To one that's left today in New Madrid. I hope you have a picture of that last bridge hanging in your office somewhere. If you don't, Donnie, we're going to get you one, because I think that is a testament to just the resiliency of New Madrid County, don't you think?
It is, man. And like I say, great people. Just, I was fortunate to be the supervisor there. The hardest part about me leaving New Madrid County a few months ago was because of those people. They're my family. I love them all, and they hard workers, and what they've accomplished. I mean, New Madrid County today probably has $100 million worth of bridges. And I'll tell you, in those 30 years, we collected about maybe $60 million worth of taxes. That's to do everything. That's road grading, everything. But out of that, they got about $100 million worth of bridges. So that's just from good, hardworking people that put their mind to something and got it done.
And again, that's very impressive, and we thank you very much. And all the guys that work there, I think it's just a testament to, like you say, the crew that you put together. I think that it's absolutely amazing. Then, Donnie, we're talking a little bit, and again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, former state rep for the 149th District. You woke up one day and you said, you know what, I don't have enough to do. I think I need to be mayor of New Madrid. I hope your wife reached over and smacked you in the head and said, have you lost your mind, Donnie Brown?
She did, and still does to this day. Like, what were you thinking?
And again, I think that a city mayor gets more grief than possibly the president or a governor of a state.
For sure. People would always say, man, boy, I bet it's even tougher being a state rep. I'm like, no, it's not even close. I said, when you're the mayor, you get it at the grocery store, at church, at your kids' ball games. You don't go anywhere that you don't hear from some constituent usually somebody that's not very happy.
And tell me a little bit, and I'm not trying to pry, and if you don't want to tell me, that's fine. And you say, well, something. Was there an event or something that happened that you said, you know what, I just feel like I need to run for mayor?
I tell you, I had a professor in college, Dr. Munger was his name, and he would preach to us that, you know what, you need to get involved. You need to get involved. Too many people sit around and gripe and don't get involved. And I was kind of watching things at the city. We had a good city. We had a good city council. It wasn't anything like that. I didn't have an axe to grind, but the gentleman that was mayor was stepping out. He was running for county commissioner. And I thought, maybe it's time I do. And cities are 90% of what cities do are infrastructure. We had water plants, sewer system, all that stuff that was right in an engineer's wheelhouse. And so put my name on the ballot, and a lot of folks thought, who's this young, dumb guy? He's not tough enough to be the mayor. And, sat there for 12 years, and I think we made the city a lot better.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Loop with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, talking about the years that he was the mayor of New Madrid. I have known mayors in the past. I was good friends with Max Clark, who was the mayor of Holcomb. And I can still remember when Max would come to the city council meeting and say, guys, sorry I'm late. We had a lift station go down and I had to go reset it, or I had to go take care of an issue at the fire department, or I had to go take care of an issue. There was a street that needed some fill or something of that nature because we had a whole – people don't realize that's the kind of stuff as a small-town mayor you have to do, correct?
That's exactly right. And we were pretty fortunate. We had a lot of good folks over at City of New Madrid, but we had the ice storm of 2009, and it was all hands on deck. If you knew how to run equipment, if you could pick up limbs. In 2011, we had the flood of record.
Yeah.
And when all my guys were out checking sandballs and all that, well, me and some of the councilmen were on the lawnmowers trying to keep the parks mowed. And so, yeah, it's some people think it's a fancy title, but you're a servant is what you are for the town.
And again, we're on Welcome to Loop with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region Engineer for Missouri Department of Transportation, the former mayor of New Madrid, also the state rep for the 149th District that covered New Madrid. Is it all of Mississippi County or part of Mississippi County?
Actually, all now.
All of Mississippi County?
It was half, but when the redistricting happened, all of Mississippi County. And
parts of Pemiscot County. He is now the Southeast Region Engineer, was also the longtime engineer for New Madrid County. And Donnie, let's talk a little bit about your new job there with the Missouri Department of Transportation. How many miles of road are you in charge of now? I mean, is there any way that you can even guesstimate that?
I think it is about 16,000 miles. It's Southeast District's the biggest district in the state. We're 25 counties. We go from St. Genevieve to the north, all the way down to the Arkansas line, and then we go all the way across and catch Ozark County. We're about maybe 40 miles outside of Springfield.
So if we were going to drive that in a day, that's why? And again, Southeast region, we always kind of become the biggest region. You know, they say it's based upon population, I'm sure, or something like that. We do have some smaller rural counties, but it almost seems like, we stretch from Rolla, we stretch all the way down to and that's a large amount of area to try to cover, isn't it?
It is. It's I'm actually going over tomorrow afternoon, heading over to West Plains, and actually just going to get a hotel room so I can the next day spend the whole day going to some of the maintenance sheds, visiting with folks. And like I say, if you drive 4 hours over and 4 hours back, you don't have any time during the day to do. So you almost have to go and find a place to stay.
And, when I was trying to get this interview set up, I was talking to you, and you're like, I would love to talk to you. I've been out visiting a lot of the guys that are actually working in the shops and facilities, right. and kind of explain to listeners what you mean by that.
Yeah. Like I said, we've got 25 counties, 39 maintenance sheds. And, the maintenance guys are the ones that you all see out here on the road. They're patching the potholes, they're putting up the signs, they're mowing the right-of-ways. They're, once a job is constructed, then they take over and they take care of it. and so they do a little bit of everything. The snow removal, we've been really gearing up for that. But 39 of those sheds, some sheds have 8 people in them, some have up to 16, depending on how much interstate they have, different things like that. So I've been trying to get around, introduce myself to them, and also just spend some time with, hey, you guys are the boots on the ground. You do the work. How can we make this thing better?
And is it my understanding that the Southeast region, your actual headquarters is in Sikeston? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is it a newer built headquarters there? Or am I thinking of and are you out there by the Sikeston Higher Educational Center? Am I thinking that right?
Yeah, we're right beside the Orgill factory there. And it's new to me, but I think the building is maybe somewhere around 20 years old.
See, that just shows how old I am, Donnie.
Me too.
I wake up and I think I'm still 25, and then I realize I'm 52. And I'm like, where did 20 years ago? And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region Engineer. And Donnie, one thing that I think that I need to say is I was taking my son. We had a doctor's appointment today, and they were doing some work on the roads, and I started to find myself getting a little agitated. Then I remembered this is work that needs to be done. So when you come across someone who's doing the work, please slow down. Know where you're going. You need to be in that big a hurry. These are gentlemen who have families at home and things of that nature. And unfortunately, we've lost some workers as a result of car accidents and air and things of that nature. Is that correct?
We have. Yeah, I was. Every year we have a day of remembrance for those workers, and I think the total's up to 140 statewide now that we've lost in work zones on duty. And the problem is so bad right now with just distracted driving. If you're out there on the roads, you see it. And we've had several accidents in our work zones, up the I-70 like we've been talking about, I-55 on the south side of St. Louis. We have to get that work done. It's going to be great once it's done. It's going to be so much better. But, people just really need to have a little patience with us and put those phones down and really pay attention, drive that speed limit. I go up through there when I was going to Jeff City. If you're driving 50, you're scared to death because people are flying by you at 75 in those work zones, 2 little tight lanes. It's just dangerous.
And it's almost, I don't know where they need to be in such a big hurry, but they do not need to be in a hurry because, like you say, you've got 2 lanes, and then the next thing it kind of veers. But again, if you will just allow them to do the work, it's going to be so much better. But you got to give them the opportunity because, like you say, you could be doing 50 and people are like just like you're standing still.
It is. And then we have one accident and you've got gridlock for hours.
Absolutely. And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the engineer for the Southeast Region of Missouri Department of Transportation, former state rep for the 149th District, also the 12-year mayor of the city of New Madrid, which I still am amazed at him for doing that. And every time I see Donnie, I'm like, you should get a gold medal for that. But that's beside the point. We're going to move on from that. Donnie, tell me a little bit about, you've been on the job a couple months now, a little bit about what are some of the projects that we're looking at for the Southeast region?
Well, there's just so many good things going on. A ton of safety projects. We've done a bunch of overlay jobs that have boosted those rural routes we talked about. Then we've got the environmental assessment that's going on down here on 412, that last 20 miles of 2-lane that, between us and Arkansas. Hopefully next couple of months, that's with Federal Highway right now. We hope to hear something back from them with a draft on that, have a public meeting here in Kennet and get the folks out and let them look at what we've got so far, get any comments from them. The 67 project over in Poplar Bluff is moving right along. We got, I think there's 5 phases of that, 1A, 1B, 2, 3, and 4. 1A is done, 1B and 2 are under construction right now. And then we've been doing the environmental on 3 and 4 and hopefully have that back and start buying the right-of-way. We're hoping to maybe the first part of next year, wanting to get all that right. And then at that point, we'll have all the right-of-way that make that 4-lane all the way to the Arkansas line. and then hopefully next year we'll bid out a project. We've been working with Arkansas. We're going to start on phase 4. I know that kind of sounds weird that we're jumping from 2 to 4, but Arkansas really wants us to coordinate with them. So we're going to start at the state line and work our way back north so we can tie in with what they're doing. And then that'll just leave us at phase 3 there in the middle to finish up.
And you know, again, I'm by no means an engineer, but I think I know everything, Donnie. Just ask anybody. Darren Dodd thinks he knows everything, but it almost sounds like since Arkansas does have it completed, you know, there, and you can kind of build it, because it's going to be a twisty kind of term. That way you can kind of focus it, because if it was me doing it, if you started building from each end, you know, mine would like not line up, and then we're going to have like a straight line. So that kind of makes total sense. And it sounds like you guys are really working. How is it working with Arkansas on this project?
I tell you, they've been really good. Of course, I'm new to the game, but everything I hear from my staff is they've been a real pleasure to work with. Of course, they even have some bigger issues than we do, bypassing around Corning, and you know, I think they had a total of about 80 miles where we were trying to work on about maybe a 12-mile section. You know, I know a lot of people are like, well, hurry up and get that finished. Hurry up. Well, we're going to probably have ours done way before Arkansas is going to be able to complete theirs. But we still want to get ours done as quick as we can.
Absolutely. And again, we're on Welcome to Loop with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region engineer for the Missouri Department of Transportation. And, you know, Donnie, talking about finishing 412 from Kennett down to the Arkansas state line, I can still remember whenever you would go 67. If you went 67 to anywhere, St. Louis, Farmington, wherever it took you, and it was that 2-lane road. And you're like, why would anybody want to drive on that? And now if you take 67, it is the most, first of all, it's beautiful in the fall and the spring, I think, with the leaves changing and things of that nature. It's the easiest drive. The traffic is not nearly as bad as what you would think if you're trying to do 55 to go to, in my opinion. So that's kind of what we have to look forward to. Don't you think, when we get to 412 from Kennett to?
I think so. I was over there the other day, had to go to Piedmont for one of those maintenance sheds, and just making that trip back down, like I say, the trees are starting to turn. It's just a really beautiful road. And I mean, kudos to Poplar Bluff and what they did. I mean, they stepped out there and passed that tax, and they didn't sit around and just complain about it. They put their money in the game and got that ball rolling, and now that, you know, the state has jumped in with them, and I mean, look at what we got over there. And,
you know, again, we're on Welcome to Loop with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region engineer from Missouri Department of Transportation. And I think you will buy this, Donnie. If you put your money into roads and bridges and ports, I don't know how you could ever lose as far as investing your money in that. You know, I was talking to Melissa Combs, who is the economic development person for here in Duncan County. And she says, you know, the first thing these companies look at is 4-lane access to major thoroughfares, or transportation, or port, or things of that nature. So I don't understand how investing in your roads could ever be a negative.
Exactly right. And Melissa does a wonderful job over here. I got to work with her when I was state rep, and then now in this role, and you know, they put that money in there too to get this environmental deal done. So they've made an investment to get this ball rolling. Everybody sees Poplar Bluff is kind of the poster child for the state with what they did. It's talked about all over the state of Missouri. So now everybody's like, you know, let's do what we can, and let's help get the ball rolling. And once you get that environmental, that's a big hurdle to get the thing started.
And again, I don't know if, and again, I don't mean to ask you questions that's kind of outside your box or things of that nature, but you've talked about the environmental study a lot. Kind of explain to the listeners what exactly that involves, doing the environmental study.
Right. And some are more extensive than others. Sort of like with the 67 over there, where we're having to do a whole new alignment. We're totally buying new right away. A lot more research has to go into that. Gets into what they call an EIS, environmental study. The one on 412 is an EA, environmental assessment. So it's not as involved, especially with the design that we have that we're talking about going with. We're not going to have to buy a lot of extra right-of-way. Hopefully we can build it within the existing right-of-way, not take any of this valuable farm ground. so it's a lot lesser of an environmental study, I guess. But you're looking at things like what kind of endangered species might be out there, what kind of water quality things. There's just a whole list of things that you look at in an environmental study to make sure that you're not, doing damage to. And we've got a little bit of everything down here in the boot heel for sure.
And again, a lot of the old timers, as I call them, the old timers, would say you can't build a road there because the way the land drains, it's going to drain funny, and you're like, you're full of it or whatever, and then the next thing you know, you try to do that, and exactly what they tell them.
Yes,
that's kind of what you have to look at in those environmental studies, correct?
You sure do.
So that way, you're not building something that's not going to last for a generation.
That's right. That's right. You have those things. You have all the Native American tribes that we had in the area. I mean, just so much history here, and just trying to be mindful of all those things before we go in and tear the ground up and destroy something that maybe we can't put back.
And again, we're going to welcome the booth with Aaron Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region engineer for the Missouri Department of Transportation, who's gracious enough to give us an hour of his time that he probably does not have in the day. He is doing an outstanding job traveling the Southeast region that covers 25 counties?
25 counties.
25 counties, 39 sheds, is that right?
That's right.
And I'd be remiss, my math is not very good, but how many workers would that include in this area, Donnie?
We, all in, we have about 700. I think we have a little over 500 in the maintenance side and then 200 in what we call the project delivery, which that's your construction inspectors, surveyors, design engineers. We have those 39 sheds. We have the district office at Sykeston, a regional office in Willow Springs. I think we have 5 construction offices where our inspectors and our resident engineers work out of. So it's a big operation.
And again, Donnie's originally from New Madrid County. He's also a Hall of Fame of Missouri S&T. And when he played, it was the University of Missouri-Rolla. And Donnie, of course, I tell everybody, and no one ever corrects me because I just spread rumors. I don't actually validate. And I tell everybody that you're the all-time leading scorer at the University of Missouri-Rolla. So don't correct me on that, but you're telling me today that that's not. At one time, were you the leading scorer?
No, I actually played with the leading scorer, Mr. Billy Jolly.
Out
of St. Louis. There was actually 3 of us that came. Me, Billy Jolly, and Chris Dawson from Jefferson City came in as freshmen, played all 4 years together, and then all 4 got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
And if Billy Jolly is listening, he should have passed to Donnie more. Donnie was tired of rebounding and kicking it back. Was he more of a jump shooter and you were the rebounder? Is that what?
He was the 3-point guy.
3-point.
For sure.
He was open when he got off the bus, wasn't he?
He was, and he could shoot from about the door of the bus. He could shoot that far.
And again, we're on Welcome to the Booth with Aaron Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region engineer for the Missouri Department of Transportation. And of course, again, I'm going to say this one more time. If you've not had a chance to check out his podcast from his state rep days, 6'4" or more, you've got to do it. It's hilarious. It's outstanding. I did see the Scott Fawn one, and I don't know how you got that one on the air, but we're just going to skip over that because Donnie probably said,
we had to take a few cuts on that one.
Absolutely. And we're talking a lot about what's going on in the Southeast Region, Missouri Department of Transportation. Donnie, the thing that I want the listeners to know as well is being from New Madrid County and you being the engineer for the Southeast region, that's just going to be amazingly important for this area. Is that not correct?
I think so. And I think with my background, maybe bring a different perspective that maybe hasn't been here before. I hope I can anyway. As I sat there as a state rep and of course, being the mayor, being the county engineer, you dealt with MoDOT a lot in all those aspects. And, I would people focus on the one bad thing that MoDOT did, but sitting on the other side, and especially these last 2 months, for every one thing that you think MoDOT doesn't do good, there's 100 or more that they're doing wonderful, really great things. Especially since with the new gas tax that's come in, I know a lot of people don't like taxes. I don't like paying taxes either, but I'm telling you that money's been put to great use and really improved our infrastructure, and MoDOT's to be commended on a lot of things they've done with that.
And let's talk a little bit about that gas tax. how could you not find a more fair way to make people pay for roads and bridges than the tax? Because if you are buying gas or fuel or whatever, that means you're using the roads 99.9%, correct?
That's right. And every penny of that goes right back into what you're using, the roads, the bridges, a little bit of that money goes to help the highway patrol, law enforcement out there. And we know how important they are to us. We need them out there taking care of us. So yeah, all that money, it's not, some people have a misconception that legislators can get their hands on that and funnel it off somewhere else. Absolutely not. That money is dedicated and has to go back to work.
And again, we're on Welcome to Loop with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, having a conversation with Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region Engineer for the Missouri Department of Transportation. And Donnie, one thing that I would say is, being from a small town, I graduated from Holcomb, and, a lot of people that I've known have never left this area. There's people who live on, let's just say, H Highway or, J Highway, and they're like, this pothole on J Highway's been here for 13 years or whatever, and how come? But MoDOT hasn't always been flush with cash, has it?
No. What was it, 5-6 years ago, before we got this gas tax increase started? I mean, it was scary how little money they had. It was they went through what they called the boulder, where they got rid of sheds, got rid of employees, sold equipment off. It was really bad times, and I feel sorry for those folks that were still there, because they were trying to do all they could, but there was no way to even maintain what we had at that point, much less build anything new. So this money came along at a great time. And, I try to tell folks that we went through all those years with no money. And when you do that, you get way behind. And so we've been playing catch up now. And I think we're catching up, and we're starting to even improve. So it's a good time to be at MoDOT for sure.
And again, I know you always want more money for the Southeast region. Are you okay, in a position to be okay with the amount of funding that you're receiving right now from the legislature?
It really, I'm learning more and more about the MoDOT systems, and I'm going to tell you, the amount of data that MoDOT has is unreal. I think sometimes there's this misconception that people just throw darts at a dartboard and that's how they choose which road they're going to work on. There's so much research and data that goes into it. There's 2 vans that go around that have all this technology in them. They measure the roughness of the road. They take videos of the road. They ride every single mile of MoDOT road every year, and then decisions are made off of all that data that comes in. So, and then the money's distributed by, the miles that you have, the ridership that you have. So I think it's very fair, maybe a lot more fair than the way other funds are distributed around the state. I know in Southeast, a lot of times we feel like we don't get our share of the pie. But I think with MoDOT, I think we do pretty good. And,
it kind of reminds me of the story of if someone calls, why aren't you coming and fixing it tomorrow? I mean, you're in charge of 16,000 miles just in this region, right. Correct?
Right.
So how many miles are all over the state? Tons
yes.
of tons.
7 districts.
7 districts. And then you're like, well, it took them, but again, that's why a lot of people don't realize this. And again, we're on Welcome to Loop with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region Engineer. That's why y'all have master plans, and I'm probably not using the correct terminology, but it's almost like we have a maintenance plan. We're going to try to do this every so many years. We're going to try to do this, and then we're going to new constructions. But like you said, when there wasn't any money, you were just holding on, trying to fill in the potholes, correct?
Exactly. That's all. Nothing new was being built. It was just, let's just try to get by till we can get some more funding.
And kind of explain to us, where are you at some of the wish lists as far as, and again, if you can't tell me this, you can't tell me this, some of the things that Donnie Brown, as the Southeast Region Engineer, really says, I need to focus on this for the Southeast region.
Yeah, we've got, of course, maintaining our system is huge to me. I mean, in the Southeast, keeping what we got in good condition is so important to keep those businesses that we've already got here, keep them satisfied and expanding. Like the 412 project, the 67, those are huge, not just for MoDOT, but for the entire state, for economic development. So working with our local partners, there's a lot of those jobs that they went on what is called an unfunded needs list. And that list is from when there was no money. And a lot of people think that we're not doing anything with that list, but I think we've taken about 33 projects off of that list and funded them and built them now. So as more money comes in, we're trying to pluck those jobs off that are going to help create jobs in the state. And those are big down here. I mean, every job we can bring into the Southeast just helps everybody.
And again, we're going to welcome the people there and talking on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region Engineer, also the former state rep for the 149th District there in New Madrid, Mississippi, and parts of Pemiscot County. Also the mayor for the city of New Madrid for 12 years. Also a Hall of Famer from what I call University of Missouri Rolla, but it's now University of Missouri S&T, and would have been the all-time leading scorer except for Mr. Jolly, who never wanted to pass the ball. But we're not going to talk about Mr. Jolly. He's on the bad list. So Donnie, I know we need to talk a little bit about this. Obviously, you couldn't have done all those things without an outstanding family. Is that correct? Tell me a little bit about your wife and your kids.
My wife, Amy, we've been married for 29 years, so we're getting close to that 30-year mark. So I owe her a big vacation next summer for sure. But she stuck by my side through all this, sat in the crowd at some of the city council meetings and listened to some of the bad words people called me, but never wavered. Always been there with me. And then God blessed us with a daughter, Anne Marie. Anne Marie actually passed away 7 years ago, 18, but what a blessing in our life that she was, and a very devout Christian, which gives us that. We know we're going to see Anne Marie again someday. And then we have a son who's younger, Donnie Ray. He just graduated from Harding University down in Searcy. He got married 2 years ago to Miss Kinley Lawrence from Gideon. And like I said, they've been married 2 years now, just both graduated. He's working in the management program with Centos. She's with teaching school and just took second place in the volleyball championship down in the state of Arkansas. A little shout out to my daughter-in-law
Absolutely.
there. First year of coaching. But we're so proud of them, and no pressure at all. Wouldn't want to put any pressure on them, but maybe grandbabies just any day now would be wonderful.
Absolutely. And we talked a little bit off the air about that, and I can tell, no pressure at all. Whenever you guys are ready, we've already got some names picked out. Papa, perhaps, something that they should know. Not like we planned. Again, we're going to welcome the people there and talk on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region Engineer for the Missouri Department of Transportation. Very good discussion. Donnie, in talking a little bit about the Missouri Department of Transportation, if someone's interested in a career in the Missouri Department of Transportation, that's also available, correct?
Very much so. Man, we are trying so hard to hire folks, to get young folks in. The governor, Governor Parsons, Governor Kehoe have worked with us to try to get salaries up in a better position. All those years with no money, nobody gets salary increases. Places like Walmart start to catch up and so, 30 years ago, MoDOT was a place everybody wanted to be. You had to know somebody to get your foot in the door. You had to work seasonal to prove yourself, to get in full time, and we lost a lot of that. So, but we're trying to get it back. Like I said, we've had a lot of help from the governor's office, got those salaries back up, and we're going to career fairs, we're going to high schools, and there's so many different options at MoDOT. I mean, equipment operators, mechanics, electricians, engineers, you name it. You wouldn't think there of all those things that happen at a road and bridge department, but I mean, we have a little bit of everything.
And Donnie, that makes me think. I was over at the, and I apologize again. I always use incorrect terms. If you listen to any of my shows, I I call it the VOTEC. It's the Kennett Career and Technology Center, and then there's also one in New Madrid. And they were, I'm on the advisory committee for the law enforcement department over there, and they had a little meeting. They said, what are some of the things that we need to bring here to teach these kids? And I couldn't think of a better thing than a heavy equipment operation. You know, people who can run an excavator, a backhoe, a bulldozer. You know, we used to have all of those. Now, when I was in school, everybody said, you've got to go to college, you've got to get a 4-year degree. Now we don't have any tradesmen. We don't have the plumbers. We don't have the electricians. We don't have the operators of this heavy equipment. Have you kind of seen that as part of the department as well?
Definitely. We're, you know, one thing I always wanted and never was able to accomplish it, I wanted like a Lynn Tech or a State Tech down here in the Boot Hill, because we have so many young men and women that would fit that so well. And for whatever reason, it's hard to get Boot Hill kids to travel out of the Boot Hill to a State Tech or somewhere. But man, you get that 2-year education there. And I'll just be honest with you, right now, a plumber or electrician, if you set up shop down here in the Boot Hill, you'll make more money than Donnie Brown as a registered professional engineer ever will.
You'll make more money than Darren Todd would, I guarantee it, because you cannot find them. And again, we're on Welcome to Luke with Darren Todd on KDX AM 1590, talking to Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region Engineer for the Missouri Department of Transportation. We're winding up. We got a couple minutes left. And I'd like to thank Donnie for his time. Also thank him for his years of service, not only to the New Madrid County as their engineer. Again, one of the toughest jobs anybody could ever do is mayor. He was mayor for 12 years at New Madrid. He was also the state representative for the 149th district. And, you know, when I found out you were getting this job, Donnie, I was extremely happy for you, but I was also extremely sad because I knew you were leaving appropriations. I want to be 100% honest with you about that. But I think what you can do in the position of the engineer is going to far outweigh the 6-7 more years we would have had you as the appropriations. So I greatly appreciate it. As we're kind of winding down, is there anything that you want to leave the listeners with before we sign off?
You know, I appreciate the support. The support's been amazing that I've had. And you know, I had those concerns too about leaving, and had conversations with a lot of, you know, Senator Jamie Berger, Senator Bean, Cameron Parker. I mean, I hope Cameron will start talking to me again now. She's kind of been shunning me since I've left, but just kidding. No, but they were all like, you know, you can do a lot there, and you won't be term limited. You can do a lot of good for a long time there. And so they were very supportive. You know, we're doing our best to get Cameron on that appropriations committee because we need that down here in the Boot Hill. I agree with you. That was a hard decision to make, to leave that, but hopefully she can get on there and work with John Voss. And, you know, I know you said I was a hard worker, but Cameron works circles around me. She's amazing and so intelligent. So, I mean, we're lucky to have her. And if we can get her on that appropriations committee, Boot Hill will be in good hands.
Well, again, Donnie, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for us. And I look forward to working with you. Of course, I'll just call and complain because you never fill my potholes. I'm just kidding,
right.
Donnie.
That's right.
You're doing a great job. I wish you nothing but the best. And on behalf of our guest, Donnie Brown, the Southeast Region Engineer for the Missouri Department of Transportation, my executive producer, Misty Hankins, my producer, Evan Todd, I'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon. I hope you have an excellent day and a better tomorrow.